now we'll switch to the Q&A part. So all of you, I would ask you to come around here if you have a question, use this microphone. And if you know who you would first like to answer your question, please address it to the person you'd like. Otherwise, we'll have them take turns kind of answering questions, okay? So would you like to go first? And please speak your question right into the mic.
Hi, my name is Christine, and I would like to know how much grass cycling plays into leaf mulching as well. If I do grass cycling throughout the year, does that not compound my lawn? Because I just had my lawn done, and I want to grass cycle, but I don't know if I should grass cycle right away as soon as I can mow my lawn, and then do the leaf mulching in the fall.
Okay.
Paul's probably the best at doing this from the scientific standpoint, but as far as the grass cycling, grass is, depending on the time of year, 60 to 70% or more water. So when we're carting away grass, we're carting away water. If you just simply leave the grass clippings in the lawn, even if you had to cut them twice, or you cut it more frequently, so you would have this large mass that can be unsightly to folks, attract in the house, etc. But if you cut it in a regular fashion, you don't create an overabundance of fertility in the soil. That's another problem. We're over-fertilizing, so we're growing crops. To cut them, we're going to have a problem. Reduce our fertility, have manageable sized clippings, 60 to 70% water, let the sun do the work. They disappear by the afternoon. They're basically gone. The earthworms, as we heard earlier, come up, they digest this. All this stuff, leaves, grass clippings, needs to stay directly where it was, back in the soil. As Prue just discussed, you'll create this nice spongy soil over time. You want to have problems with stress in the summertime, lack of rain, insect problems, fungus problems. Continue the process of taking away clippings and leaves, and those problems will persist. When you restore the balance again, our nematode buddies, our bacteria, fungi, protozoa, they come to our work. Again, we're using power. We're using nature's power versus the force of trying to figure things out. It's all about understanding the natural concepts and how they work, and it's easy.
So I mulch my grass, I leave it, I do it more often, so I have smaller grass clippings. That should just be it.
Don't be, go enjoy your kids. Go have fun.
This is something I wanted to say that wasn't quite grass clippings, but relates to the concerns about decomposition and buildup. There was some material, some studies that were passed to us by Anna Snyder of the Cornell Extension, and thank you, which was talking about research looked at using the impact of shredding maple leaves and shredding oak leaves onto your lawns. And there's always been this kind of well, I don't know, acquired wisdom or whatever that, oak leaves are really difficult and they're going to be bad. Same with sycamore, let's say, something that breaks down slowly. What they found out after 4 to 5 years of study, in fact, is that there was no net negative impact on the turf that they could detect, and there was no difference between maple or oak leaves. So I think that's sort of a myth that the various leaf materials you've got to watch out for. Anyways, I just wanted to say that because I think it relates somehow to build up on the lawn.
I have one more example or a question. I went to the Irvington website last year and read about leaf shredding mulching, and I was immediately a fan, and I started doing it at home as well. And I tried to convince my neighbor to do it, and he's a person who can't be bothered picking up his leaves until they're all down. So he has a huge tree on his front lawn, and his name is Peter. And I went to Peter and I said, Peter, look, the last leaf is down, and all, you could probably just start just raking it all to the curb because we have curb pickup. And why don't I take my leaf mulcher? I have a shredding mulcher, and I just go over it and I show you what happens to it. And I mean, he has a big tree and lots of leaves, and I thought it was very thick. And since I was doing it on my property sort of as the leaves fell, and there was a weekend I was shredding them, he had all his leaves. I mean, really, his last leaf was on there, and I was like, and he was like, all right, well, go ahead. So I did that. I took my husband was like, you take your lawnmower. I said, I show him. So I went over his front lawn, and after I was done, you couldn't even see that there were leaves there. And I was laughing at him, and I said, you know, don't come back to me next year and say you have a thatch. I said, because that's not true, because it will all go away, and you will be very happy. And I did all the mowing for him, and it was really tough. But I had to prove my point, and I did that. But with regard to the process, my question is, when leaves fall, I shred on the weekend because I just want to get rid of them, and I thought it was very hard to shred all of them at once. Now, is there something to go by? Do you let it all fall, and then people tell me, well, the grass dies because they're buried under the under the leaves, and it obviously doesn't look as nice. And yes, my neighbors who rake them to the curb at this point also. So is there something, an advice you can give me? Is it wrong to do it every weekend, or is it rather wrong to just leave it until the last leaves fall and then shred them all at once? I just wonder if there's any guidelines how to do it.
Like anything else, there's a learning curve to it. Like I say, for over 20 years I did things wrong. It took about 6 or 7 years to refine the process. If you can get to it more frequently, all the better. Depends on the tree type, leaf type. If you can employ the wind, windy days are the greatest thing in the world. Landscapers usually deplore the wind. Oh, it's windy outside, we can't control, get things done. I love the wind, because I don't know if you blow it, so I just go with the mower, the wind moves things around. So more specifically to answer your question, it depends on the density. There are some things that could happen here where people may do things improperly the first 1 or 2 times out, maybe the first season, and then turned off on it. There's a little skill to it that comes along. Not much more than tying your shoelaces once you get the hang of it. That's why this autumn we're hoping to do a couple of YouTube videos that somehow can be linked and really see the process and speak to the process in the different weeks. Some weeks will be lighter in early November or late October, then at peak time about second week into November, or especially if you have big rain and brought everything down. If you can stay upon it regularly, that would be better. But don't fear, if it gets ahead of you and you miss a weekend, it's raining, you get 2 or 3 weeks, just go at it, try and let the sun dry the leaves up. It also depends on the power of your equipment, naturally. If you're an electric lawnmower, or we have these big gas machines that we can attack them with. It depends on your equipment. There's little fine tunings in there, but the easiest answer is to try and stay on as regular as you can, so you can re-chop. Part of it's getting finer and finer and finer. Again, it's a deck of cards thing was the best analogy in terms of creating surface area, because things can decompose more quickly.
Question, sir?
You're right here. You're right there.
Oh, yeah.
Sir, could you get in line?
Hi, my name is Etika Tony. I design gardens, and I find that interacting with the contractors inside and my clients, I am the link. And of course, I would like to know how to educating the client and convincing them is easy, I find. But now in bringing the contractors aboard and also convincing them that it's cost effective for their business as well as for the client, what do you think, the contractors here, what do you think is the best way of bringing the contractor to use this as part of their business?
David?
Well, in my case, I was bringing like, at the end of the day, every day I was bringing a whole truckload to dump. And I'm proud to announce that this year I didn't have to renew my dumping permit in Yonkers. Because I don't take any leaves away now. And of course, you do come across some people that just don't want them, then I take those to my property. Because someday those will return to their house. Again, not in the form of leaves, but in the form of soil. So, to me, honestly, the best thing is to talk to the customer and give them the options, but they have the last word. They're the ones paying for it. So, I have something that I printed out that's there that what I say is that for people that like the looks of mulch, I would still add like 2 inches of leaf mulch and then a little layer on top of that, if they like that look. So to me, selling it to the customer is really the way you present it in a lot of ways, but you also have to like sort of have to demonstrate it, like, so they can see it and believe it.
Thank you. And to the contractor, bringing them willingly and happily aboard, what you're saying is that you also have been saving money and not using trucks and so forth, so that is one of the convincing
We're saving
arguments.
time, we're saving fuel,
Okay,
and helping the environment.
so that, thank you.
Again, it's a two-part approach. It's the customer, it's the education, like this material, it's archive, it's the demand side of things. Then in the other side of things, the worker side of the component, it's fear, it's human nature.
Yes.
Fear of the unknown, what's going to happen to
That's
it.
what I
Now
was
again,
asking.
I like watching these videos and watching photos all day long. I've been studying this stuff for a number of years. It's a trust that I'll have to develop with contractors. We need to put in visual form and video. We need to make it safe for them to adopt this practice. We also need to keep controls on it where it doesn't give them a license to run roughshod, because we'll have the same group of people who we're trying to educate and rein in, who then will, wow, there's some paper and there's a Poland Spring bottle, and let's run that over too. And they'll blow it out the curb. It's an educational, it's the demand side. We're not allowing stuff to go into the streets and the storm drains. Everything gets hopped back into the lawn, into the beds, and make it safe for them to realize it is not going to harm the lawn. You'll have the account next year. It's not, you're not going to lose the account. So we need to work on the human psychology of things of the workers, so they feel they're doing right. Right now, they feel they're doing wrong. They need to be steered to make them realize they're doing right.
Is there any other resource? What I was saying is that as a designer, I'm the link, meaning I would go, educating the client is easy, and you just answered, both of you, my questions about getting the contractors aboard. Is there any other resources for them besides designer?
Well, I think there's, the key, I think Tim brought up, is if you can get the municipalities and the county to really leverage this as a piece of required education, then I think there's a lot of power there, because in the case of the county, everyone that comes onto your property to touch a twig has to have a license renewed every 2 years. That's a perfect pressure point in the system to basically say, and oh, by the way, please look at this DVD, and or whatever the material is, please look at this. And there's enough, hopefully enough information built up in forms of testimonials where you would have to be pretty blind as a business owner not to say, hey, wait, I want to save time, money, and possibly, you know, you might want to be green too, but there's a lot of business impact. So, and from the municipalities down one level, there are some that do have registration processes for landscapers right now, mainly geared toward passing out information about blower ordinances. Again, another leverage point for every time you register in the particular municipality, they could be provided educational material as simple as this, you know, and so that's a really an easy, low-cost kind of leverage point. But again, it's coming from, that's a top-down leverage point.